The time to recognize and understand that the dream that you thought was a dream is no longer the dream.
So this is a great question, and I feel like I'm a perfect person to answer it. But first, let me give you a little bit of context about myself so you understand where I'm coming from. So I'm 24 years old, and over the last 3 years, I've been working as a content creator full-time, social media influencer, whatever you want to call it. I'm one of those guys you see on TikTok and Instagram posting day in the life videos, and it is hands down the best decision that I've ever made in my entire life. I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to connect with so many different amazing brands and amazing people, so many different opportunities coming my way just because I decided and ultimately ended up being a social media content creator. And for the life of me, whenever I think about it, whenever I meditate and I'm by myself, for the life of me, I could not tell you how I ended up here, because just a few short years ago, I was in a completely different space in life. The person that you see right now, if you scroll through my TikTok page, if you scroll through my Instagram feed, the person that you see there is not somebody that I was. In 2018, 2019, I was at Baylor University on a full ride studying to be a neuroscientist. I had everything going for me. I had all the grades, I had all the accolades, I had all the mentors, I had all the scholarships. Everything was lined up for me to accomplish the dream that I thought was for me of being a neuroscientist, of being in the neuroscience field. And I think about this idea because over the last maybe 10 years or so, I've switched what I wanted to do with my life maybe 6 or 7 times in pretty major ways. And if this sounds like you, where you're constantly switching your goals, you're constantly switching your identity and what you want to do with your life, if you're constantly doing that, I'm going to reveal to you what I learned for myself and what different books have taught me, my different mentors have kind of shown me. And it comes down to this concept of your goal versus the door. Understand this. Your why will never ever change. Your why, your purpose in life, that will never ever change. It's just a matter of you figuring out exactly what it is. However, the how, the method or the vehicle of you achieving that goal, that can change a lot. That can change several times for a person in my case. And if that sounds like you were constantly being in this cycle of switching your vehicle to whatever goal that you feel like is yours, here's why. It's because you're chasing after a false goal. So I'm gonna give you a pretty easy example to understand. So if you ask somebody how much money they feel like they'd be happy with in life, say they want $1 million. If I told you, okay, cool, I'm gonna give you all the money that you've ever dreamed of, I'm gonna give you $1 million finally. But the catch is you have to be locked into a room with it for the rest of your life. How many of you would take that deal? The answer is you probably wouldn't take that deal. Who would want to be stuck in a room with $1 million that they can never spend? And the reason why you would probably say no is because money in your life is just a false goal. For example, you might say that you want $1 million, but what you actually want is freedom. You might actually want to travel the world. You might actually want to spend more time with your family. You might actually want to spend more time with your kids, whatever it is. And what's happened in your life is you've tricked yourself into thinking that you just want more money, when in actuality you want more freedom. And so this is a mistake that a lot of young people make, myself included. And once I realized that this is what was happening in my life, it gave me so much more clarity to not only feel like I wasn't actually lost, but it gave me so much more clarity and understanding that I actually do have so much more control over my life than I thought. You're not as hopeless as you might think. What you need to do is actually just spend more time understanding and spending more time in introspection to understand exactly what you're after in life. So if you're one of those people where you're constantly in this revolving cycle of saying, hey, look, I want to do this, and then next month you're doing this, and next month you're doing this, you're one of those people where you don't actually know what you're after in life. And if that's you, that's okay. But what you need to do is spend the time necessary to actually sit down with yourself and ask yourself the hard question of saying, hey, look, what is it that I'm actually after in life? And until you figure that out, until you sit down and actually decide what that is for your life, you're gonna be in that hopeless trap of constantly looping and always being on to the next thing. And once you actually figure out what it is that you're actually after in life, once you figure out your actual purpose, like I feel like I have at this final point, if you actually understand and consider with yourself what you actually are after in life, then you have to accept that life will carry you in ways that you never imagined. Rarely ever do plans go exactly how you kind of plot them out. Rarely ever will things go exactly how you think they will. And you have to embrace that, because at the end of the day, that's what life is all about. And as long as you're on the path of going after what you're truly aligned with in life, what your true core desire is in life, you're going to be just fine. And until you get to that space, you're going to be in that space of constantly looping. So until you get there, If you're one of those people, this is how you overcome that. Really just sit down with yourself and figure out exactly what you want out of life, and spend the time necessary until you come up with that answer for yourself.